Good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome back to our little game of Diet D&D. We are continuing Season 2 with our first legit dungeon in our Diet D&D history. We continue onwards with our story of our half-elf rogue, Scaithe, as always, played by Daniel.
Hello!
And as always, I am Artificial, and I will be your dungeon master, legitimately, this evening. Alright. So, when we last left off, Scaithe, Florentine, Rothwell had just embarked into the desolation of Suiliita. I keep saying it incorrectly, and I want to apologize for that. Into the desolation of Suiliita. Off of the Sky Warden after their run-ins with these giant monster birds. They have just stumbled across a half-orc that happens to have the name Saber written on her clothing. Suffice to say, this might be the person that has mailed Scaithe this magical bird relic in the first place. It seems to be lost or confused in the slightest. Last we left our party, they were heading off to investigate the dig site that was nearby. Alright, Scaithe, you're the first person to arrive on the campsite. It looks as expected, right off the bat, of an archaeological dig. There's some tents set up, like a basic encampment, a lot of digging implements, but of course it's abandoned. A few tents happen to be knocked over, some scratched to pieces, and everything just looks like it was dropped in a hurry. There's obvious signs of footprints just leading out of here, but no bodies or anything of the sort.
Right?
Florentine will begin to look about on one side. Rothwell will kind of follow along, or on the other side, Saber will kind of just stick close to Rothwell, still unsure of everything.
Do I notice anything else in the sand?
There's some tools and a lot of half-buried, just what you would expect to be tools right off hand. More or less, your attention's more or less drawn to this central tent that is still standing, but it's got a large table with a lot of literature that's kind of been just shoved off the table, like someone cleared off the table very quickly.
Alright. I move to investigate.
As you get closer, the entire table's clean, someone's brushed everything off, and smack dab on the table is a crude carving on this wooden table of an orc that has been scratched out, X'd out.
An X'd out orc.
All around the table are half-buried books and scriptures. One book is particularly larger than the rest of them.
Well, a big book has more information, so what is that? Is that in any legible language?
It's kind of half buried in the sand. It appears to be closed, but you do see no noticeable marks on it right off the bat, but there is a bright red bookmark sticking out of it.
I want to open it up and take a look.
You pick up the dusty book. There does not appear to be any markings on the cover. It appears to just be a large leather-bound book, similar to kind of like the spell book you found previously, but a little bit larger. You easily flip through a few of the pages, and it appears to be a handwritten scripture, but you cannot read or make sense. You cannot decipher any of these markings, and they seem to be inconsistent. Florentine will actually join aside and start looking over this book as well. She seems to have a hard time making sense of it as well.
Looks to me like it might be chicken scratch.
She ponders for a moment and says, Chicken scratch may be, but it actually looks like it's organized, she says.
Do you think it might be from the bird creatures?
Uh, at this point, Rothwell will kind of shout over, looking through a few shovels that are kind of buried on the other side. I don't know. They didn't seem like the type who would read books. The half-orc kind of just clinging to Rothwell, kind of unsure of what to make sense of anything. Like she's just kind of made this kind of half-mental bond with Rothwell just to stick close to her. At this point, Florentine will ask, "What's in the bookmark?" Point to the bookmark.
Turn to the page.
The page has your name written very legibly in common right across both pages. Florentine immediately says, "Why? What is this? More gibberish?" You can obviously read this page. It is written in common.
Is that the only thing that the page says?
Your name is written, cannot miss it, on the top of both margins, but it looks like a detailed note on both of these pages, written in haste. Florentine says, "It's just more chicken scratch. But why is your name here?"
It's like, I don't know. Obviously, it must be something to do with the letter and the bird statue.
Would you like to go ahead and read the message? Because you can easily read this message.
Go for it.
It's written in
Yes.
common. It looks to be hastily written, but it says, "I'm sorry you don't know me. This is a matter of urgency. It is a last resort, and I hate to do this to you. But this relic we have found in this tomb needs to be put back where it belongs. These cultists are after it. We don't know why, but they are. All we do know, from what we've learned, is that if it is returned, then it is of no use to them, and they should hopefully leave us alone. Signed, Saber." Florentine is trying to pick up the page you're reading, trying to look through the rest. Come on, we gotta find something legible here. Don't just stare at chicken scratch.
Well, for some reason, I can read this. And I don't get read.
But she seems to give you a perplexed look. What do you mean you can read it?
I don't know. I can see it's written in common to me. I can see common.
She actually rubs her eyes and stares at this page very intensely. She waves a hand over it and will try to dispel magic. Let's see how well that goes. Alright, she rolls an 8, but that should be enough to do it. You can tell she has used dispel magic, but nothing happens on the book. I still can't read it, she says. "Maybe it's a magic book of some kind," she says.
Maybe if someone's name is written on the page, whatever is written underneath it becomes visible to just them.
That could make sense, but you apparently don't know this orc. How does she know you?
That's a good question as well.
At which point Rothwell will kind of fill in practically on cue as she shouts over to you and pulls up this large book she digs out of the sand. Says, "This looks like a phone book." To which
They
point
had a phone book.
To which point Florentine will say, "What's a phone?" Rothwell will say, "It's a list of names." And she will come over to you two and scroll through it with a bookmark as well. On the bookmark page is a bunch of names. One of the margins says Adventurers Guild. The list stops mid-page, like it's not complete, and underlined is the last name, Scaithe, under new arrivals.
So they found an address book, or they had an address book, and they literally just grabbed a name out of the book.
Okay, well, I suppose if they had any knowledge of... She pauses and kind of rolls her eyes and crosses her arms and says, more important people, they would have picked someone else. But it appears she's in no condition to pick and choose.
It looks like she's in no condition to make any rational decision.
At which point the half-orc will actually pick up a shovel and is actually kind of digging in the sand with the handle end.
Case in point.
I don't know, I like her, Rothwell says.
No, she seems nice enough.
Okay, so what does the page say?
Well, it said that this statue needs to be returned to where they found it in the... Well, actually, it doesn't say where, but I'm guessing that needs to be returned to the place they dug it up from. Otherwise, then it will be completely useless to these bird people.
Okay, so that sounds easy enough. Rothwell seems up for the job at this point. She seems a little excited.
Yeah, seems easy enough to me. Go into a hole, put rock back, leave the hole. Just to put it super simply.
Florentine says, well, and also the fact that we haven't been accosted by any of these bird creatures anymore. I guess it would be safe to say they would have been waiting for us.
Definitely. I think their goal was probably to get to us before we made it to this place.
So you're saying they should leave us alone? Rothwell says.
They'll either leave us alone or leave this place alone, because obviously something's here that they don't like. We should still try and be on our guard.
Of course, Rothwell will tap the shoulder strap of her rifle that's still slung over her shoulder. At this point, the collective 3.5 of you will look around and obviously find this large, legitimate hole in the ground that just appears to be opening to just a staircase, which is obviously the point of interest they were digging about. Florentine says, I suppose this is the hole we're looking for?
More than likely.
Well, since you've got the magic relic, you're going first, she says, and kind of ushers a hand like you first.
Alright, I get the hint. I take my first steps down the stairs.
This flight of steps is easily made out of sandstone, like naturally carved into the sandy wasteland you find yourselves in right now. It does not look completely artificial. There's no metallic. It is completely carved out of just the solid sandstone and bedrock, what would only be presumed as the natural landscape. At this point, the four of you begin to make your way down. You come to the bottom of the steps. Alright, you may move your characters to this location here. I will do my best to keep up with everybody and every other token. Florentine will follow behind you. Rothwell and the half-orc will follow as well.
Awesome.
At this point, Rothwell will kind of go, hey, wait a second. And actually point as you guys notice that this half-orc has this large piece of parchment kind of sticking out of the corner of her belt. Rothwell will kind of look at the half-orc like, can I? And the orc just gives her kind of a somewhat sincere, somewhat half-confused smile. Rothwell will take this piece of parchment out and unfold it, and it appears to be a hand-drawn map of some sort of structure. She says, "Do you think this is the map of this cave?" She'll hand it to you, Scaithe.
I think we need to explore a little bit more to see if things match up, but it might be safe to say that this might at least be a crude representation.
At this point, you now have a physical map of something.
Indeed.
Alright. You kind of pander around the map real quick just to see if you can identify any stairs, and you do notice there's a flight of stairs that leads to a kind of S-ing hallway, an S-shaped hallway,
Mm-hmm.
to which you kind of follow around the corner and see, in fact, that the selected point you were looking at does, in fact, match up. Oop, I'm dragging you, I'm sorry. Still
That's
dragging
alright.
you. At this point, Florentine says, "Well, then it looks like we might have a map."
Very good.
Right? Scaithe, you may go as you please.
I'm going to cautiously, hug the wall down here, peek around this corner.
As you begin to make your way down this hallway, all the sunlight kind of fades out from the initial flight of steps. This entire hallway is made out of this smooth sandstone, very finely carved. The walls themselves seem to be of kind of a mix of stone and sand itself, more like a masonry stone. Instantly, you're met with the cool temperature that's shielded from the sun outside. But it is not completely dark, as you now begin to see all the walls are covered in these very elaborate labyrinthian runes that kind of twinkle ever so slightly, giving off a little bit of illumination. And about every, say, 10 or so feet are large chunks of what look like quartz crystals kind of entwined on the walls, giving off a luminescence themselves.
So basically, we have trip lights to make sure that we can at least watch where our feet fall.
Florentine, you audibly hear her kind of shudder like she's got the chills. She says, "This place has got a lot of magic going on."
Now let's hope that magic is on our side. Or at least a neutral party.
At which point, Rothwell will kind of start guiding Saber, kind of like courting someone down an aisle. Saber seems content, but she still seems out of place, as everyone can tell. But she's not very talkative. She's like out of her element, as everyone could guess. Scaithe, you turn this final corner and come across a small little archway that looks like it opens up into a room.
Alright. I want to investigate the archway just to be safe. Is it just a regular archway?
The archway seems to be carved out of the same masonry. There does not appear to be anything too particular on it. Two small little columns on either side kind of arch over your head like a giant open doorway is expected of an arch.
I want to see if I can sense trap or anything.
Okay. Roll perception and whatever other bonus you think you might have. Your roguish skills or anything you may
Let's see. It would wind up being around a 13.
Alright, you can easily tell that this archway is not trapped. It's just an archway.
Okay, good. So I want to step through it.
Alright. You immediately find yourselves in a small room. You can easily see all walls. There is on the far end, there is a iron door. Looks like appear to be the only other exit to this room. And immediately stepping in, a small tile labyrinth covers the floor like a mosaic labyrinth made out of the same tiles, but just in a pattern formation.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will kind of follow behind you. And on the east wall, there is a very large, golden framed 8 by 4 foot mirror. Gleams in the small little reflected luminescence of the room.
All right.
At this point, Florentine will kind of be pushing on you like, go ahead!
I take one step in.
Florentine will kind of squeeze past you. And these two will kind of linger in the archway shortly behind. At this point, everyone roll perception for me. We'll take that one.
17.
Alright. You and, in fact, Saber, you actually see Saber react as you begin to hear voices coming from over near the mirror. It is unclear what these voices are saying, but it appears to be coming from the mirror or on that wall at least. Saber will kind of act. It'll seem like she kind of forgets everyone else is in the room and kind of just walk over and stop about right here just staring at this mirror.
All right. I want to get closer to it.
Rothwell will kind of gather around this side over here. This Florentine's also piqued in interest. As you get closer, you begin to hear voices more clearly. Sounds like it's coming directly from the mirror. You can easily just see that your reflections just easily reflected in this mirror. It does not appear to be any gimmick of any kind. The mirror does seem to be a little bit dusty, probably expected from the coarse sand that is kind of trickled in behind you guys. And possibly from when they've uncovered this, as this place has probably been here for quite some time. You begin to listen for the voices and you hear, yes, in a very quiet, kind of grizzled tone. Yes, they're on their way. Yes, the orc pig returns with 3 guests. Yes, my lord, 2 elf scum and a damn regular. At which point, Rothwell will go, you know what? And instinctively just shout out, kind of get up closer. That what kind of echoed in that small little room right there, and the voices go quiet. You hear what sounds like hurried footsteps, and the ever so faint flap of feathers.
Hey, Rothwell? Little request? When we're eavesdropping, please don't lose your temper.
Well, I don't care if they're bad guys, they don't have to be rude, she says. Florentine just kind of facepalms and says, she's gonna get us killed, I knew it.
Oh, no.
Florentine will actually go over and start to investigate this iron door.
I want to try and investigate the mirror further.
Okay, you can either just roll a perception or tell me exactly what you want to try and look for.
I want to touch it.
Okay. You touch the mirror and you instantly see that your fingers go right through it. Phase right through this mirror.
Brilliant. It's a portal. I pull my hand back.
The mirror is just the same as before. At this point, Rothwell will also stick a hand in and out really quickly. And do it again and again. Very amused by this.
Lottie, if you're not careful, they might want to. They might want to. They might. Bleh, they might try and take your hand the next time it pokes through.
Oh, okay. At which point she quickly unbuckles the rifle and begins to stick the rifle in and out through the mirror. Um, Saber will actually kind of sidestep and begin to start poking a finger through the mirror as well. Florentine just stands back like, what are you guys doing? Portal or not, we need to figure out where we're going. And running into where the bad guys are might not be the best plan.
Good deduction. So what's with the iron door?
Um, she turns right around. The iron door doesn't have a lock on it. It's got an easy handle, but it appears to be a little bit stuck. She quickly muscles up a shoulder against it. She says, I think I can get it. I need a hand.
I offer assistance.
Alright, roll
Also,
strength.
I tell Lottie to kind of step away from the mirror just to be safe, and I rolled a 10.
She pouts and kind of steps to the side, kind of swatting a hand away from the orc, as if to tell her not to as well. And Rothwell rolled a meager 3. Though she kind of failed, both of you managed to kind of unstick this door. It kind of scrapes along the sides of these masonry walls. This iron door gets open enough for you to force your way through. Rothwell is going to roll strength as well, and roll a meager 6 as you look back and she's trying to pry this mirror off the wall. Both of you just kind of look at her and she's like, what? I want to take it with us!
We'll pick it back. We'll try and pick it up on our way out.
At which point, Saber will also roll a strength and roll a 17 and rip this thing right off its hinges.
Or we now have a portable portal.
And now she will roll acrobatics and roll a perfect 20 as she keeps this thing hoisted over her head and doesn't drop it. Rothwell jumps for joy, clapping her hands. Yay! Florentine says, what good is that really going to do us?
We can use it as a weapon, and whatever we hit will get ported to whatever's on the other side of this mirror.
I like it! Rothwell shouts out, as Saber kind of just holds this mirror now in front of her. It just kind of reflects you guys like she's almost disappeared behind it.
Alright, well, now that we've got the mirror, we need to start making a few steps forward, shouldn't we?
Rothwell kind of taps on Saber. Just, come on, let's go. Saber actually perks up a little bit and says, magic mirror is mixed juju. Florentine kind of gives look like a very condescending, right, yeah, great. Very uninterested. You look back at your map. This hallway appears to snake around another corner.
Alright.
It looks like you're in for a long-hauled hallway, so far as the map says.
Well, I take my first step in and see what we got.
Alright. As soon as you step through the hallway, you can easily see that this corridor here is just completely filled with even more of these glowing glyphs that just completely cover the wall. Less crystals, but just more hieroglyphics that seem to glimmer and glow.
Alright. So I'm going to presume with what little information we have so far, that the deeper we go, the more glyphs we'll see.
Florentine will say, sounds pretty good. Florentine will follow behind